What's up, Lego Builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios. It's the end of the month, which means the parts I have allotted for Mimban are looking thinner than that wisp of hair on Master Yoda's head.
He's right.
Luckily, I have most of the parts I need for the base, so I can get the floor tiled off and finally figure out what the other half is gonna look like. To me, probably one of the most impressive things about the Star Wars galaxy is the massive catalog of unique flora and fauna. Today, I'm gonna be exploring that in more depth and trying to find some cool Star Wars creatures to build that can roam the muddy wastelands of Mimban. If you think Yoda should just go the Master Windu route at this point and shave his head, don't forget to execute Order 66 on that like button, and let's build some stuff. I've got about half the base foundation done, and I like where things are headed. It took about 2 months to get to this point, but the second half should come together much quicker since hopefully most of the planning and problems have been worked out, and I basically just need to hit copy and paste. I built a couple more pillars and realized I wasted a bunch of dark bluish gray brick on the other ones since only the front is exposed, so I made these a little bit more colorful to save on dark bluish gray parts. I'm not going to worry about the exterior panels since I'm still focused on the interior and don't need to build those yet. Now that the pillars are in, I can build the interior wall, and last week I asked for some feedback on what to do to bring some life to these walls since I felt like they were still pretty bland. That video got over 200 comments, so thank you all for dropping suggestions, and in just a bit I'll show you what I came up with. I want to add a walkway to this wall as well to match the other side, but I'm not sure what its purpose is yet. I might add another row of generic storage or meeting rooms, but not really sure what to do. I want this walkway to have some kind of purpose other than a way to get off the elevators and onto the ground floor. I've been so much more motivated these past couple of Mimban updates now that I really know what I'm doing and I can really have fun. I'm starting with the other door, which is basically just a panel of plate and tile, but it's been fun doing this base because I feel like I'm doing a lot of micro builds that combine together to create one giant MOC, instead of what I've typically been doing for years now, which is hours and hours of boring rock work. Makes me wonder what the next MOC series will be, since I do enjoy outdoor MOCs more, but they don't make as interesting of a build series. I have yet another naked base wall to cover, but I've finally decided what to do. It's time to bring in the yellow. I've worked in multiple factories and warehouses, and yellow is a key color to designate pathways and protect things, and I've already been using it, so I figured I might as well keep the yellow train going. I've seen yellow painted cement pillars placed in front of garage doors or other fragile things in case something big backs into them. It's stopped by the pillar instead of damaging the door. So I'm going to try something similar and set up these against the back wall with pipes in between them. There are going to be lots of tanks and vehicles moving around over here, so I want to make sure the pipes are protected from being backed into and spilling their contents all over the base. The other side wall is next to the gantry crane where lots of maintenance and most likely goofing off will take place, so I'm adding water tanks and a hose. That way if anything catches on fire it can be quickly put out, or if there's an oil spill or a particularly muddy vehicle comes in for repairs, it and the floor can be properly cleaned off. This came in real handy last year during the legendary cake incident where someone replaced Darth Vader's birthday candles with firecrackers. I've got a pretty good idea of what's going to be on this side of the base, so now I can tile off the rest of the ground with plate and tile and see what it's going to look like. This is going to be a big step forward visually. At the entrance to the base, I built a computer for logging what vehicles will come in as well as what issues they have. That way there's order in the repair bay and vehicles aren't just dumped here without explanation. Those vehicles, once checked in, will be parked on this half. I'm going to build some parking spots to maximize the space usage in here. I figured the standard vehicles used by the Empire could all fit into these spots, minus the Juggernaut of course, but that's going to need a whole separate building. I'm so glad I decided not to try and fit my Imperial Juggernaut in here because it would have hidden so many of these cool details I'm adding, and the crew in here wouldn't really have the capabilities to work on one anyways. I can't even imagine what kind of jack you would need to prop up one of those tanks to change a tire. I've been getting a lot of people asking me to include the legendary scene where Han and Chewie fight/meet in the underground prison cell. Han gets dumped down here for insubordination, and he's about to get a permanent mud bath from Chewie when he drops some absolutely flawless Wookiee and convinces the lovable furball to help him escape. This is going to be an Easter egg, so I want it to be on the small side and not take up a ton of space. Looking at the scene, we see a really muddy pit with paneled walls, so I built 3 paneled sections. 2 of them have white tiles on them to represent these lights, and the third one has some rock work on top to represent this middle panel. So we're looking at the prison pit from this angle like we're emerging from Chewie's cave in the main area. The ground is going to be mostly tile since it looks super wet and muddy in there. I don't want to have any big gaps where the panels meet, so I'm going to add 2 stacks of dark bluish gray cylinders to cover up any holes. This should create a pretty snug little prison for the 2 to wrestle around in. The most notable feature to include is the pole in the middle of the pit, since apparently that holds up a big chunk of the roof, because when Chewie slams Han into it, they knock it over and send the roof and guards crashing in. Not the best design for a prison, but I guess you gotta get those main characters out of there somehow. That roof appears to be a bunch of grates at ground level that can be opened to drop stuff inside, so I'm gonna build a frame and stick some of the Lego ladders in horizontally to create floor grates that can be opened up. This whole thing will sit on the prison pit, which I need to somehow stick underground in the base compound area. I need to plate off this whole area so I can build the landing pad. For anyone who doesn't know, reddish brown Lego pieces are pretty controversial because they tend to be brittle, breaking and cracking very easily, making it very hard to build with them. So I could be in some real trouble when it comes time to pull them up. I've been a little worried about the base since buildings and greebling aren't exactly my strong suit, and I was feeling like there wasn't enough going on inside and it was looking empty. And I don't want this looking like the Geonosian arena after the clones rolled up. But I'm starting to feel better about everything. Each week more storytelling is being added and the space is starting to fill up. I think because I didn't have a solid vision for what the finished interior would look like, I was only going off of what progress I could see each week, and it just didn't feel like enough was being built. But that's how every build starts out, and as I continue to work on it and add more detailing, it's looking better and better. So now I'm just going to focus on doing more each week and slowly discover what I want this base to look like and how I want it to function. For example, I now know what's going on over here on the second half of the floor. It's going to be a staging area of sorts for tanks and other vehicles to wait their turn to be fixed, or if they don't need the gantry crane, the mechanics can work on the vehicles where they're parked. I realized it's probably good to have a lot of open space in here since this is a repair bay and you don't want it packed full of computers and meeting rooms. That way there's more room to operate and fix the vehicles. So I'm going to focus more on adding detailing and builds to the side walls and leave the middle open, thus giving me that level of detail I want but not sacrificing functionality, just like what I've been doing with the pipe protectors and computers. I actually like the prison pit a lot. I mostly added this as just something to fill out the update, but I had a lot of fun building it and think it looks pretty cool. I added some reddish brown tile and slope to the walls and floor to make it look more dirty. I have all the figs I need for the scene, but the big question is, where do I put it? I need it to be on one of the edges of the mock so we can see the underground cell, but I don't want it to get in the way of the landing pad or path for the Juggernaut. I'm thinking about either putting it here behind the landing pad or over by where the trench will sit, although that might be too close to the edge of the base, which might give prisoners a better chance of escaping. Let me know in the comments which spot you prefer. The big molded pieces for the landing pad supports are still in the mail, so I can't work on this much, but I did design a foundation for the pillars. I figured since Mimban is so muddy, they would need to pour some serious foundations for the pillars to sit on, so I used some different sized macaroni tiles to create a round disc for them to sit on, which I think will make the landing pad look more secure. Just pretend these things go like 10 to 20 feet in the ground. Now we get to the best part of the video, a creature build. I've really been wanting to include some animals in the mock, and this fossil doesn't really scratch that itch, so I've been thinking about what the possibilities are. I want it to be some kind of pack animal for gear or people, and I thought about using some Kadu, since we've seen creatures from Naboo on other planets and they would do well in the swampy conditions I'm building. But then people would just assume Gungans would be the next inclusion and complain that I'm giving this mock a Naboo makeover. And I have a much better creature in mind. I'm building a Spammel. These long-legged quadrupeds first seen in Rogue One are an instant eye-catcher. Their unique build gives a real Star Wars vibe, and the long legs could help them traverse the pits and swamps of Mimban. This particular design was created by LDD Model Maker on Instagram. He designed some really cool stuff, and I actually found his build a long time ago, took a screenshot, and then just forgot about it. Then a few weeks ago I came across it again and thought it would be the perfect fit for Mimban. And I always love adding a new LEGO Star Wars creature to my collection. I want to build a couple and either have some Imperial mud troopers riding them around or have the Mimbanese rebels using them. Thankfully there weren't any hard to find pieces, and it's got some joints in the legs for some good posability. I've also been thinking about doing a little Mimbanese rebel encampment out in the wastelands. I built a couple tent frames out of brick and they are pretty blocky, but this is based off the tent design from the LEGO Indiana Jones Jungle Duel set because I'm also using that same canvas tent piece from the set. I think this is such a cool and unique LEGO item. It's got some patch and pack printing on it and holds its shape really well. The only downside is the price. I bought a couple for my Battle of Jabim mock a few years ago, and I would love to be able to use these again in Mimban, though I'm not sure where they would go. This is a Star Wars camp, not a weekend getaway, so I built a couple of power generators to power various equipment or ships. I like stacking these ball turret halves to make pylons, and to transfer and monitor the power is this little computer with a pipe connecting it to the pylons. I figured the more weird builds like this I could include, the better and more detailed it would look. I brought out a really dusty brown LEGO crate and added some sand blue tiles to make a lid. I love the Spammel, and even if I don't use it in this mock, I'm gonna figure out a way to incorporate it into a future build. Like I said, it looks exactly like some kind of Star Wars creature, and the face is so cool, even though LDD mock designer didn't use any kind of eye or mouth pieces, so major props to him for that. They are pretty high off the ground, even when kneeling, so I built a little ladder to help people mount them. This is what the encampment would look like, almost like a staging area for rebels to hide at while carrying out ambushes on the base without needing to come all the way from their headquarters. And it's something that can be packed up and moved quickly. But I'm not sure where I could put this without it being super easy to see from the base, but I'll just have to finish the open terrain portion of the build before I can know for sure. I've been wanting to do something with brick-built Star Wars creatures for a while now, so it was nice to finally get those Spammels built and on the mock. I'm also pretty happy I was able to scrape together such a good update considering I made this at the end of the week, so my parts budget has already been spent for the month. But it's a new month and a new budget now, so the next update is going to be full of a month's worth of parts. And I can get a lot done on the landing pad and maybe finally build that rebel tank I keep talking about. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to let me know what you think about Mimban down below in the comments, and until next time, happy building.